Now, I'm explaining for years to people about living under the color of law. And for the most part, I was called a conspiracy theorist because it led to a conspiracy, what I originally called back in '80, a conspiracy of deprivation of rights under the color of law, which is legally known now as a conspiracy against rights under the color of law. And I guess that's why they called me a conspiracy theorist. And a conspiracy, it's not a conspiracy theory, it's a conspiracy of deprivation of rights. In a conspiracy, all it takes is two or more people to deprive rights, thus leading to that creates conspiracy. Okay, deprivation of rights is simply violating the oath. Violating the oath is a federal crime. Okay, tells you right here, deprivation of rights under the color of law. Okay, but let's read this here. So I'm having the internet explain it to you. I said, explain living under the color of law. Living under the color of law generally refers to situations where governments, officials, or authorities figures use their power or the appearance of it to abuse authority or violate an individual's constitutional rights. It can also refer to the systemic generation spanning impact of institutionalized discrimination created by past government policies. The phrase covers distinct everyday realities depending on the context. The deprivation of civil rights. When an official, such as a police officer, judge, or prison guard, abuse power, they act under the color of law. Even if the action itself is illegal, if a person is using their official badge, uniform, authority to commit the act, it is recognized as a federal crime. Examples for violations: false arrest, unreasonable force, unlawful searches, and sexual assault in custody. Legal protections. Title 18, Section 242 of the U.S. Code makes it a federal crime to deprive someone of their constitutional rights under the pretense of law. To report civil rights violations, you can file a complaint with the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. Civil actions. Victims can also seek legal resources through civil lawsuits under 42 U.S.C. Section 1983, which allows individuals who state officials for violating their federal rights. Living in systematic segregation. The Rothstein perspective under the color of law is also the title of a prominent book by Richard Rothstein, detailing on how U.S. housing policies mandated racial segregation throughout the 20th century. Living under these policies shaped where Americans live, their access to community wealth, and how neighborhoods are structured. How it happened: federal and local government used zoning laws, public housing placement, and race-based redlining to mandate the black and white citizens lived in different areas. The general impact: these past actions continue to affect generational wealth and neighborhood diversity today. You can learn more about these historical policies and community action strategies via the University of California, Berkeley, belonging and other institutes. Okay. So, it comes down to the rule of law does not exist. Okay. Anybody know what the rule of law is? And see, and it's happening all over. You see it on television, it's on the internet, you see it everywhere, deprivation of rights. In order for somebody to do something, you got to file a complaint. And the head of the complaint department is Helen Waite. You got a complaint, go to Helen Waite. Okay, so that's explaining living under the color of law, okay? So I put explain operating under the color of law. Operating under the color of law refers to a person acting with the appearance or pretense of legal authority, such as a government official. A government actor can be prosecuted or sued if they use official power to willfully violate a citizen's federally protected rights, even if their actions are actually unauthorized or illegal. The core concept, the phrase color of law, means utilizing the power given by government agencies, local, state, or federal government officials' action count as being under the color of law, or if they are purporting to act in their official duties, if they overstep lawful boundaries or commit fraud. When it applies to primary law enforcement officers, prison guards, and judges, however, it can also include public health providers, doctors, hospitals, mayors, or private individuals conspiring directly with state officials. Crucial detail: the action is not legally valid. It is an abuse of power cloaked in a badge, uniform, or official title. Common violations: when an official acts willfully deprives someone of their constitutional or federal rights, it becomes an offense. Common examples investigated by the FBI and prosecuted by the Department of Justice include excessive force, using unreasonable or life-threatening force on a civilian, unlawful arrest and search, detaining someone without probable cause, or searching person property under false pretense. That's what they call the jump out boys, where they just jump out on you and just grab you for no reason. Using a position of authority to coerce, assault, and sexually exploit individuals during traffic stops or while in custody. Denial of medical care, which happened to me many times. Willfully denying necessary medical treatment to someone who is in custody. Legal repercussions: operating under the color of law to deprive someone of their rights can lead to severe consequences. Criminal charges: under 18 U.S.C., this is a federal crime punishable by heavy fines, imprisonment, and even the death penalty, depending on the injury caused. Civil lawsuits: victims can seek civil damages under 42 U.S.C. 1983, which allows individuals to sue government employees for their constitutional violations. To dive deeper into the concept works of a practical level, you can read the federal rights statutes and explore community discussions on Reddit. Okay, so you have a lot of people operating under the color of law. All your public servants. Specifically, I've been talking to you about your lawyer. Okay, it starts with your lawyer. Go to the rules of professional conduct and read it, and you'll see a whole lot of stuff your lawyer is not doing. He took the oath to do that. Violating the oath is deprivation of rights. All right. Now, the judge is supposed to be making sure, and the opposing party is supposed to be making sure, your lawyer lives up to the rules of professional conduct. Any violations of the rules of professional conduct is misconduct. And your lawyer isn't living up to those rules. And the opposing party, no matter if it's the public or the state's attorney or some lawyer in civil court, and the judge are supposed to make sure your lawyer does that, and if he doesn't, that's misconduct, and reporting misconduct is mandatory for lawyers and judges, and they didn't do it, thus creating conspiracy against rights under the color of law. Everybody gets charged with deprivation of rights, and everybody gets charged for conspiracy against rights under the color of law, because nobody's abiding by or enforcing the rules or the codes. That they don't mention here, okay? So I was just showing you what you're living with. You're living under the color of law. You got people operating under the color of law, and it's because of your ignorance of the law. And ignorance of the law is no excuse in a court of law. Look it up. I did a video on that. Ignorance of the law. So what's their excuse? Okay, people, things aren't what they seem to be because you don't know the law. All right, and that's what I show you on my page, Legal Reform, on the Vent, on YouTube, and all those other places. All these public servants operating under the color of law, forcing you to live under the color of law. I explain to many people, and they think I'm loony when I say if a law is illogical, it's illegal. all laws must be created in the public interest. Look it up. Are all, just put in a question, are public servants legally required to do what's in the public service? Yes, they are. That's what the oath requires them to do. Okay, so you'll get a lot out of my videos. I got a ton of them. I'm pushing, I think, 400 on YouTube. But that's a whole lot of people operating under the color of law. And when I used to explain to people about our public servants' legal obligations, their job descriptions, they didn't believe me, but now it's on the net. Look up a conspiracy against rights under the color of law complaint form, and it'll take you to the Department of Justice. And they know it's happening. They're watching it. They're doing it. And nobody's being held accountable for it. Look up penalties for violating the oath. Penalties for deprivation of rights, penalties for a conspiracy against rights, penalties for violating the rule of law, penalties for violating the letter of law. There's a whole lot of laws they're breaking there, my people. You know, just to put you where you're at. That's wrongful prosecution. So think wrongful prosecution compensation. Okay, I did a video on that as well. Okay, so remember, and nobody can claim qualified immunity knowingly and willingly depriving you of your constitutional rights. And, you know, and you got to watch out because they will come after you. Look at what happened to Martin Luther King preaching about, hey, you know, all we ask is you live up to what you put on paper, and they didn't like him saying, hey, you know, these are my civil rights. These are my constitutional rights. These are my rights as a United States citizen. These are my human rights. These are my birthrights as a United States citizen. Why are you withholding this? That's violating the Constitution. That's violating the oath. That's violating the rule of law. There's so many things that happened that shouldn't have happened. If the rule of law actually existed in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, it clearly states that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. Amongst these are the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that hasn't happened yet. That's rather a poetic version of the rule of law, I think, but still, pushing 250 years and still, the rule of law doesn't exist. Nobody's living up to the oath. You're living under the color of law. They're operating under the color of law. And here we are. Come the 4th of July, we'll be celebrating 250 years of the Declaration of Independence being written. But what is written is yet to be begun. In a nation of laws, all laws matter. The law is power unto itself. In a nation of laws, the rule of law is king, and yet has yet to be crowned and seated on the throne. We are not a democracy. We are under corporate control, which is called a corporacy. That has to stop. And I need your help. I need you to help me stop them from operating under the color of law and forcing you to live under the color of law. So hold them to the oath and all the obligations of the oath. And you'll find that I post almost everything I can possibly think of on my TikTok, Threads, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Don't let them take advantage of your ignorance of the law. And when you stand in the court, they'll tell you that's no excuse. And I'm trying to help you out, trying to get you out of that dark place, that dark room, the courtroom where life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness goes to die. So if we must go to die, I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. I've been there, dying for what I believe in, dying for what I wanted ever since I was a kid. It all started with a dream. Reading the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and realizing the rule of law didn't exist. Nobody was living up to the oath. And a nation of law is a prominent law where it clearly states that we are all created equal and endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. 250 years since it was written, and 250 years has it yet to begin. It's time. It's time. Thank you and good night. God bless one and all. May the Creator always be with you and rain many blessings. I wish you a long life and good health. Peace and happiness.